Thank you for tuning in once again to his Vine and Fig Tree podcast. My name is Kurt Olson. I'm your host, coming to you on the early afternoon of March 5th, 2025. The items I want to bring to your attention is Russia, Ukraine, a little bit on the State of the Union, a little more on Doge, kind of something that's more under the surface right now, not getting a lot of attention that you need to be aware of. Columbia University, and why is a 15-year-old in Washington State getting attention? All right, Russia and Ukraine. Just background. I don't think anyone can argue the fact that Vladimir Putin was the aggressor in this conflict. This is a guy who thought his military could take out Ukraine in a matter of days, a couple of weeks, maybe a month, maybe, and it would be over and done. It hasn't worked out that way. So, that combined with Vladimir Putin's desire for uh, Russia to return to some form of dominance and prominence is kind of driving factors with what he did here. On the other hand, you have Ukraine. Ukraine, kind of very strategic because of its location on the Black Sea, but this country has become a very corrupt location. Um, Things involving Joe Biden going on there, but this goes back at least a decade, if not longer. And we even have Volodymyr Zelensky even admitting that some money that we have sent over to Ukraine has come up missing. Whose hands did it get in? Was it the um, Ukrainian oligarchs? Maybe Russian oligarchs? Um, what happened to it? So there's that. But there's just another aspect of this for I think Americans is that we're tired of endless wars. We're tired of our country being subjected to yet another conflict that we're supposed to invest all of our time and attention and money into, and um, we're supposed to just jump on board. Now, with Russia being the aggressor, clearly there's an American interest here. Um, but I know for me, the whole endless wars thing has been a tiring exercise that we've seen happening with our government. And so that's one of kind of the underlying things here that is an issue here. So let's just jump ahead. So during the Biden presidency, we have a lot of money thrown at them. We have American military equipment, other things thrown at them, and Ukraine's holding their own. And all of a sudden, we have an election in the United States of America, and we have a new president. And I think a lot of people were wondering what was going to unfold under another Trump presidency. And the bottom line is he wants peace. He wants peace. And he's had some conversations with uh, Vladimir Putin. And for someone who wants peace, that's a very normal thing. A lot of people automatically jump to how Donald Trump bows the knee to Vladimir Putin, and these two are inextricably linked through circumstances in American politics. Russia collusion, Russia collusion, Russia collusion. Um, a dominant theme of Trump's first term um, kind of links Donald Trump to Vladimir Putin, even though there are some uh, aspects of that whole narrative that just is is fiction because it's made up. So a lot of that is the background. So let's jump ahead to the meeting last Friday in the Oval Office. Um, I heard about it during the day when I was at work that there was this dust up in the White House, and Zelensky was, and the Ukrainian delegation was told to leave. And I was like, what is that all about? And I had a little bit of an idea that they were going to be sitting down to talk, but what caused that? And you may have seen the 50-minute video already. For me, I wanted some context. I didn't watch the entire 50 minutes, so I wanted to watch 20 minutes, 10 minutes in the lead up, and then the chaos that unfolded at the end. And I did that. And let me just say that my initial gut instinct on Friday evening after watching that and things that developed over the next couple of days really kind of shaped kind of an altering perspective. Let me explain. So, you see this video, you see the exchange that was going on between Trump and Zelensky, and that one spot where Vance is interjecting some things, and it becomes a full blown crisis. You have um, just this conversation is going off the rails. Now, let me share with you something that I saw that Friday night, and because it comes from a reporter who I respect, and and it was part of fashioning my initial response. But even as things developed, kind of crystallized in this direction. Let me just share this. This is from Cheryl Atkinson. For those of you who are not familiar with Cheryl Atkinson, she is the person who leads Full Measure News. She that is on some cable television stations from Sinclair Broadcasting. She usually previously worked for CBS News. Excellent reporter. Straight facts. Just get to the facts. So I want to share with you something that emerged late Friday afternoon on the 28th, the day of this meeting. She goes, my hot take: Zelensky was encouraged by certain European leaders to take on Trump in front of the media. It may have backfired. Hear me out. Not to mention, Zelensky, to me, looked uncomfortable, like he was forcing himself at theater. Zelensky may be a great leader and he's been through a lot. And I will bet he wants only the best for his countrymen. But I have to note, what happens when there is no more war? He is not given the hero status he has today. And there are elections. I spoke to a foreign official today who happened to have nearly the exact same take. He didn't think it was a good look for Zelensky. Zelensky may have been told to take on Trump in front of the media, and the media and the American people would side with Zelensky. Partly true, but not for Trump voters. And then lastly, she says, lastly, if Zelensky truly wanted something from Trump, he doesn't understand Trump at all by not showing up in a suit. And that last statement there is pretty good. I mean, the guy came in like he was somewhat of a military leader, um, and if you're getting ready to sign a mineral deal with the United States of America, and you're at the White House, at least show up in a business suit. And that is not what happened there. But my initial take was this: of the three people in the room, I thought the two people who looked the worst were Zelensky and JD Vance. I thought JD Vance came across as very unpresidential. Um, and but let me share with you how my perspective evolved over the next 24 to 48 hours. So the following day, Zelensky was in the UK talking to Keir Starmer. And I'm like going, okay, okay, if you're making a foreign trip, you make several trips along the way. So it would kind of make sense that he would go there. And then the next day, Sunday, there's an emergency European Union meeting of the prime ministers. And they're announcing this European strategy for peace between Russia and Ukraine. And when I saw that, other things started adding up. And let me explain a couple other things that happened. I saw an interview that Secretary of State Marco Rubio had with CNN. And and then Marco Rubio would proceed to have at least one, maybe multiple appearances on the Sunday morning shows that weekend. And Marco Rubio, I had a lot of like for Marco Rubio before he became Secretary of State, but he is fitting in nicely in this role. And the guy had a command of the vision his boss, Donald Trump, has for Russia Ukraine, which is bringing about peace, stopping the shooting at one another. And Marco Rubio communicated that with tremendous clarity all weekend. Now, in the interview with CNN, Marco Rubio also proceeds to say that this was the third time in a matter of 10 days where Zelensky had an opportunity to sign this agreement. And um, on each occasion, the story changed. And you're left with what's going on here. So there's all that. But secondly, the thing that happened was multiple interviews I saw with Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent. And Scott Bessent is basically echoing Marco Rubio. This guy has had multiple opportunities to sign this agreement, and this should have been fait accompli, done deal, signatures, the whole nine yards. And I'm like, something doesn't add up here. And then I saw the events that were unfolding in Europe. And I'm like going, did Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron or some others get in Zelensky's ear when you head to uh, Washington, make a scene, or don't sign that deal? Um, and then you also come to find out that prior to the meeting with Trump at the White House, Zelensky sat down with Democrats that I'm aware of. I'm not aware of all the Democrats that were in the room, but I know one Democrat, Connecticut Senator Murphy, and I see that, and I'm like going, "Wow, European leaders not exactly fond of Trump. Let's not allow him to declare a victory. Democrats certainly not wanting Trump to be able to declare a victory. So certain things started adding up as the weekend unfolded. And that's why I land on the position that immediately what you saw from the left after this this meeting went off the rails. Oh, Trump and Vance set up Zelensky. No, I believe it was the exact opposite. Democrats in the Senate and European leaders set up Zelensky to make a scene or to not sign that quite yet. Now, what the EU came out with late in the day on uh, Sunday was this plan for peace, and they acknowledge the United States is a key player in this. And now what we're hearing, and this was from the State of the Union just last night, um, he wants Zelensky now wants peace. He wants to sign the minerals rights agreement, and so that's where things stand with that. And just the just the course of events of just over a matter of days just kind of underscores when certain things are going on, it's easy to knee jerk react. But those things aren't happening in a vacuum. And there's reasons certain things are going on. And I could be wrong in my take, but based on events, that's where I landed. So that's where things kind of stand there. I mean, and there's a lot of hatred between Putin and Zelensky. They have a lot of mending that has to happen here. And if there's going to be peace, um, they're going to have to be bigger people. The State of the Union. This was kind of standard stuff. This was the longest State of the Union, apparently, in American history in terms of a speech to the Congress. And Trump played up a lot of things really well. And the thing that is just so distressing is how the left behaved. We had just minutes into the speech, Al Green being kicked out of the chamber. We had Democrats holding up these signs that said various things about Medicaid cuts, and I'm going to get to that. Um, just various things, and um, and then you had the moment where DJ Daniel, the 13-year-old from Houston, Texas, who has had 13 brain surgeries because he had a pediatric brain tumor, and it was diagnosed at the age of 6, and he's had multiple operations in recent years. And all this kid wants is to be a police officer. Very noble thing. A lot of boys go through that phase. In fact, I went through the whole firefighter and cop phase myself. And the Democrats. So what happens here is Donald Trump has his head of Secret Service. I believe his name is Scott Kieran. He went into the gallery right next to DJ and his dad and gave the kid an honorary title as a Secret Service officer. And you had the dad hold up the kid, and he's got his arms up, and then the kid just reaches for Mr. Curran and gives him a hug. It was an amazing moment, political moment. And one Democrat, one Democrat on that entire side of the aisle could bring herself to stand and clap for the kid. It was really a bad look for the Democratic Party. And there are people within the party, David Axelrod, Dan Turrentine, who does a morning thing with Mark Halperin and Sean Spicer. Um, Axelrod and Turrentine are just wow. I can't believe the party went that far and did that. Um, you saw some things. Even one of the black panelists on one of the MSNBC panels that was had. So all around, the Democrats look bad. But put in context, all of that came the day after not a single Democrat in the U.S. Senate, not a single Democrat in the U.S. Senate could support only girls and only women playing girls and women's sports. And this is the kind of stuff that got them in trouble with American voters. And this is just a bad look all around. And there's going to be deep ramifications to what unfolded here Tuesday night at the State of the Union, compounded by what happened the day before with supporting um, males, boys and men in girls and women's sports. Third item, Doge. Now, I've spoken about Doge the last couple weeks, and I just want to make people aware of the talking point that is starting to happen and is going to emerge with a lot more certainty. And it's Medicaid cuts. In fact, that's the issue that Al Green was screaming about when he was interrupting the president and before he was escorted out of the House chamber. Now, and there were Democrats that held up signs, and some of them said Medicaid cuts. And this is why the messaging regarding Doge is so critical. And Doge, of course, is the Department of Government Efficiency, this thing that Elon Musk is doing, and his merry band of late teen 20 somethings that are these computer geniuses. And the left and the media is beside themselves because, well, Elon Musk has access to your health care and your social security information and this and that. Elon Musk's mission is really simple: find waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government. And he has done a very admirable job at this point in doing so. And during the speech, you had President Trump rattling off a series of things that they have found that the government was funding. Just worthless studies and projects in other countries, whatever. And then he came to that segment where, as I mentioned, I believe it was a couple weeks ago, the chart that showed the number of people in various age categories between like 110 and 119 and 120 to 129, all the way up to 360 to 369. People in these various age groups, and the number of Americans or number of people in that age group who are supposedly getting Social Security checks. After this speech happens, Senator Bernie Sanders is beside himself. No one is that old, and no. That's the point, Senator. That's the point. if those checks are going out and if any of them are being cashed, it's called fraud. It's called fraud. And whether those are family members who are cashing checks or it is other individuals, the point is those people are not living that long. And these people, these checks could very well be the source of some fraud. And, but this gets to other things because the narrative regarding Doge and the Republicans right now that the left is trying to solidify is Medicaid cuts, they're cutting Medicaid. Now, for those of you not aware, Medicaid is the combined federal government and state program that offers health care to people who are poor. Okay? And worthwhile program, at least as a safety net. But if you're trying to tell me that Medicaid can't be more efficient, that Medicaid can't be kind of streamed and made very efficient so that the people who are getting it are indeed poor and are people who just simply have decided they're not going to work. Because that's one of the things that Republicans are seeking, a work requirement for people to have that benefit extended to them. And let's be clear. And all you have to do is go to the national debt clock. It's very easy to find on the internet. The national debt clock is a source of a lot of information about debt in this country. And one of the things that you will see is the unfunded obligations that is in excess of $100 trillion. And there have already been warnings about Social Security and Medicare becoming insolvent. And that would mean that Gen X, the millennials, Gen Z, and generations moving forward wouldn't get the kind of benefits that baby boomers, the Great Generation, and others had. And this is just something that the Republicans are going to get stuck as an albatross around their neck, that they're going to be killing poor people. And there's going to be a grandma in a wheelchair, and she's going to be flung over a cliff. Well, the point is, these entitlement programs are going bankrupt. And without changes, something has to happen. So, this messaging that is connected to Doge and waste, fraud, and abuse in the government and making things more efficient, there's some messaging there that's going to be really, 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 really critical for Americans to accept everything moving forward. So I say that. Two other things here. Um, Columbia University, late last Wednesday afternoon, Barnard College, which is connected to Columbia, had a group of Palestinian protesters and professors take over a building. And since that period of time, as the Free Press is reporting today, Columbia University there is a task force, I believe it is inside the Attorney General's office. And there is a task force that is focused on rooting out anti Semitism. And Columbia University is on the verge of potentially losing $5 billion because they have refused to deal with the kids on campus and the professors in their midst who are brazen anti Semites. In fact, this story in the Free Press goes on to name UCLA, University of California at Berkeley, New York University, and Georgetown University as other colleges that are next on the list. Now, you can pretty much go to almost any Ivy League school on the East Coast, and you can find problems of dealing with the anti Semites on campus that erupted last spring all across the country on some prominent college campuses. So, that is something to keep an eye on, because if really expensive colleges like Columbia start losing federal money, a shoe is going to drop, and it will probably be with alumni and donors to the school. So there's that. Last item I want to bring to your attention is a girl by the name of Frances Stout, a 15-year-old from Washington State. And why is she famous? Well, this junior varsity basketball player in Washington State was playing her last game of the season against a team that had an 18-year-old boy playing JV basketball against girls. And Frances Stout, God bless her, went to the coach and said, I'm not playing against a boy. Not doing it. And when that happened, Frances Stout got accused of bullying and misgendering someone, and she's facing potential discipline by the Washington Interscholastic Athletic Association. That is the world we are living in, folks. Everything is upside down, and a girl who's simply looking out for her well-being and safety, and actually a mother backing her daughter up, um, doesn't want any part of playing against a boy, especially an 18-year-old boy playing JV girls basketball. So, um, those are the issues I wanted to bring to your attention. Um, I just want to mention once again, this podcast is on Apple Podcasts. It's on Spotify. You can find it on YouTube. There's all kinds of avenues to find this, and looking at some other things. We'll be dropping a new column this week on something that involves something in the world of Christianity that the media should be giving attention to, but is not. Um, so there's that, and just thank you. Now, two things I'm going to share with the podcast. One, former President George W. Bush was. I do not know the setting. I have tried finding this out. Um, and so I don't know the setting, but I found this on X late last week, and I'm like, I want people to see that. And basically, what he is doing is talking about how in the conflict between Israel and Hamas, there is only one country. There is only one of the two parties that is in the right, and that's Israel. And Israel has no business negotiating with terrorists. And frankly, it's a position that is very similar to my own. So I'm sharing that. Former President George W. Bush. And The other thing that will be a part of the comments to the podcast is a short video of a little girl singing "This Little Light of Mine." And I hope those who see it will find that it puts a smile on your face. So until next time, God bless and goodbye.